Hello, everybody. My name is Matteo Espinoza, and I'm sure you all remember Red Ribbon Week. There were presentations done throughout school districts to stop kids from utilizing drugs later on in their life. And I remember one of the drugs they belittled was cannabis, marijuana, the devil's lettuce. Today, there are still debates on whether or not we should utilize this Schedule 1 drug for its benefits, but recent debates are starting to turn in favor for marijuana legalization. The reason why I came to talk to you guys about the growing cannabis industry is because a lot of states have now legalized its use in state boundaries. And I've come to tell you that marijuana, cannabis, is on the rise in our nation, not as a drug, but as a legalized U.S. commodity. I have researched various creditors, from field researchers to mass cannabis companies, who all provide some of the most relevant and optimistic information about the growing cannabis industry as of 2020. The information I will share will hopefully teach you all some of the reasons why common cannabis has the potential to become a nationally accepted and industrialized U.S. commodity, both for medical use and recreational use. To prelude my presentation, the reason why we're going to see common cannabis become more nationally accepted is because, one, it has many medical benefits to exploit for the six benefits. Second is because it has great profitability that can be used to spur economic growth. And third is because it has already been legalized in many states and is on the rise to becoming a federally legalized commodity, no longer a drug. The main reason anyone would want to support the legalization of marijuana is because it makes us feel good, medically speaking. To give a more sophisticated response, I'll call Dr. Grindspoon. He says, in particular, marijuana appears to ease the pain of multiple sclerosis and nerve pain in general. Patients claim that marijuana allows them to resume their previous activities. Now, many respected medical practitioners have acknowledged the fact that the intake of marijuana does in fact have some therapeutic use. An example of this comes from Ride with Larry. Larry is a 20-year-old Parkinson's disease patient, and as Dr. Daniel DiMoli, who is part of the documentary, describes, giving him doses of marijuana actually boosts certain receptors in his endocannabinoid system and ultimately relieves him some of the symptoms of his Parkinson's disease. Now, cases like Larry are quite common, in fact, so making marijuana legal on a federal level could be profound for many sick individuals because its medical use are widespread and actually a bit unknown because we have yet to research more of its use. So, and that is a main argument for many cannabis legislative activists. Now, speaking of legislation, the cannabis industry has already earned its share of political victories across many states. Remember, cannabis was banned completely 2 decades ago, and having some possession of it could lead you in some serious jail time. But now, as of 2020, 33 states have legalized cannabis use for medical use, and 11 of those states have also legalized its use for recreational purposes. And believe it or not, Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, has legalized marijuana use for both uses, medically and recreationally, in its state boundaries, which is saying a lot. And it's adding to Kenneth Spur's argument that there's this domino effect happening from these 33 states already legalizing marijuana, because it's just going to encourage more states to follow the already political majority of cannabis activists. And this is seen by Keith, by how 9 states are currently petitioning for marijuana's legalization for either medical purposes or recreational purposes. And he says if these legislation propositions get passed for cannabis, then it's only going to encourage more people to join on boat. It's kind of like a bandwagon effect if you think about it. Now, if popular support and medical benefits does not convey the legalization on a national level, then its profitability as a cash crop will. I'm sure you've all seen the recent ads of how marijuana, the growing cannabis industry, has already obtained billions upon billions in revenue. And I've come to tell you that these accusations are actually true. Marijuana is quite profitable, both on a local and national level. To support this, I'll bring in 2 examples. I'll bring in Iris Dorbeen, who summarizes the New Frontiers data, literally titled the U.S. Cannabis Report 2019 Industry Output. Now, this was a project by New Frontiers Data, and she summarizes how it supports the claim because they estimate that the cannabis industry total sales is going to increase for the next 6 years until it ultimately reaches $30 billion in revenue making by 2025. Just in legalized states alone, keep in mind. To add on to these assertions with correlation, I will quote the ACC, which claims that because it's worked with many cannabis clients, it has a good grasp in the field and has a really up to date understanding of how it's expected to grow. They think what Iris is saying is ultimately true because as of 2021, they expect the revenue made by the cannabis industry to be about $23 billion, and is later to expand exponentially because 20 states are now pushing for new cannabis selling laws that is going to be able to allow their businesses to expand productivity. And they also say that 91% of their cannabis infused products clients report that they're able to break financially even just from the revenue they make selling cannabis. Now, to make a long story short, there are many reasons why we are likely to see the growing cannabis industry become a nationally accepted U.S. commodity. Definitely by the end of the 21st century, I may say. The main reasons why we should even consider legalizing this wonder drug is because cannabis can add to the medically recognized therapeutic treatments. The second reason is because cannabis can offer a lot of potential revenue for both states and locals. And the third reason is because cannabis has already been legalized in more than half of America's 50 states. Now, something I want to leave you guys with today is the fact that today the main opponents of marijuana's legalization is still the boomers, the old people. Now, these boomers actually still take up more political legislation votes than our youth do. So if millennials today wish to see cannabis legalized on a federal level by the end of the 21st century, then having more youth join political legislation voting would be the best solution in order to see that possibility even come to rise. Although its trend is currently growing, it can only be further influenced by you, the voters of America. Thank you.